I am here with Brian Wang because he's now the regular on Wednesday. So, Brian,
Mhm.
you are now a full-fledged, what do I call him? Co-host.
Okay,
Yeah,
wonderful.
co-host on Wednesday night. All right. So, and I think it's a perfect night to make that declaration because you were right again.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. You started it. Everybody was like, nah, come on, Brian.
Hmm.
You said, I think it was 2 weeks ago on Wednesday night. You said, I think we're going to do 500,000 cars in the third and the fourth quarter. At some
Right.
point, I even put that up as a thumbnail.
Hmm.
And as late as Monday, no, Tuesday of this week, last night,
Yeah.
Larry Goldberg's like, nah, not going to happen. Well, guess what? Now a lot of people are starting to come around. We've got Troy Teslike is at 461, which he's always behind the curve, so he hasn't quite figured all of it out yet. so I think, and you were just really basing it on the fact that the showrooms were emptying in the US.
And China. Yeah.
In China, the showrooms were emptying and things were selling through. But then
Right.
we got this Model Y news,
Mm.
we got this turkey news.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking now? Are we gonna be stuck at 500,000?
Um, I'm my range is 490 to 520 for Q3.
Okay.
It depends the extra 20 or 30,000 depend upon how good the YL production is, which supposedly they started building and delivering them 2 or 3 days ago, the
Yep.
beginning of September.
Mhm.
So we'll get a first week of September numbers, which won't give us a huge amount. Like if it was low at only what seemed like an extra 2,000 for YL, um, I'm expecting that to get to 5,000 per week in September. So that would be hopefully 20,000, right? Could be better.
Yep.
It is the possibility that Tesla production, in China really just turns right away. It is very similar to the Y. So they could get 8,000, even 10,000 is possible. If those were to come in, then it'd be additive, mostly additive to the existing production of Ys and threes.
Mhm.
So then if you added 30,000, 40,000 onto 85,000, then you'd have 115, 125,000. You'd end up with two 270,000-ish, 280,000 for China versus 230,000. They're right now at 150 for the first 2 months. So then you add on 150,000 from a really good Fremont number, 50, 60, even 80,000 for Austin, and then 50,000, 40,000 for Berlin.
Mhm.
So those are the kind of things to get to. In a perfect world, it could get as high as 550, I guess. But I'm not expecting that. That would really need YL to hit it out of the park. We have no evidence. We don't know that that's going to happen, right? But pretty good numbers and everything kind of going as good as I can see it could be a 520. And then in Q4, if we're regularly doing 5 to 10,000 per week extra in China
Mhm.
from a YL production,
Right.
that could be 60 to as much as 130,000 extra vehicles, which
Uh-huh.
if everything else is still selling through, then we could see as much as 600,000.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, especially some of the other things that are happening. So one of the other things that we didn't know, I think we did know just about 2 weeks ago, and that's maybe why you first decided maybe 500,000 was in play, was the IRS change.
Mhm.
So the US is likely to be pretty much selling as much as they can legitimately make for the fourth quarter as well as the third quarter in Fremont and in Austin. Then we just did a video on your channel. I guess it'll be out maybe today also, where we were talking about the cybercab. So there might be cybercabs in production by the fourth quarter.
Right.
We also have semi-truck, which right now they're only making a few a week, but they're getting really, really close to starting production. We
Mhm.
might see some of those starting to roll out, although I don't know if those will be sold or if those will go into Tesla's internal fleets.
Right. And that I could see taking a slower ramp of like, if they could actually make 3,000, like 1,000 a month, that would be huge if they
Yeah.
could do that. Because ultimately they want to make about 50,000 a year, which would be about 4,000 uh, a month, which would be like 1,000 a week. So, and that probably with 4 shifts. So then if you look at only 1 or 2 shifts, then getting to 1,000 would be one full shift would be um, amazing for them for the semi truck. But as we've did a video on, I think that they can get FSD 14 working really good and relatively quickly get it where you could have the truck behind a lead truck following very closely, which is called platooning, which would let you have um, a convoy of 3 trucks with only a human driver in the front and then no human driver in the second and third vehicle. And I know that even other Tesla bulls like Larry don't think that can happen, but um, that would be something where it's still kind of supervised, right? It's not fully everything's working, no human drivers. You have a human driver in the lead vehicle. So
Yeah, and the other thing to think about is that if it's only 1,000 a month, it's the equivalent of 5 or 6,000 a month in terms of dollars, in
yeah,
terms of profit, maybe even 7,000 a month in terms of profit. And if they use them internally, it's worth even more. And then
right.
if they decide to have their own fleet where
Mm,
they're actually selling trucking services, it's worth a lot more. And that's what I'm
right.
hoping they eventually do, is create their own fleet of trucks as well.
Mm,
Okay, so then the poly market has caught up with you as well.
mhm.
The poly market is now saying 500 to 503,000 for the third quarter. And so again, they listen to you all the time
Right,
because you are, after all, the only certified futurist that I know.
right.
So talk to me about a little bit about Polymarket. I know that obviously as a futurist, you spend a lot of time on Polymarket. You mention it commonly on air. How
Mm.
do you use Polymarket? Do you use it in terms of some of your thinking about the economy, some of your thinking about Tesla, some of your thinking about politics, et cetera? Do you kind of watch? How do you use Polymarket?
So if you think about it, like if we were looking at elections or sporting events,
Mhm.
right? So people putting money on the line saying, you know, will the Patriots win whatever game? Or will so-and-so win an election? If you're putting money on the line, you're going to put a bunch of extra effort to research and be sure that you have as much edge as possible to be sure that you're right. You know, you're going to be seeing, you know, is the quarterback injured? Is, you know, what's the weather like? How do they perform or whatever? Doing all that extra work, right? So, but that doesn't mean you're going to be right. You know,
No,
the whole crowd could be wrong and say, okay, we thought so and so would win and they didn't, whatever, right? So the upsets happen, right? But the amount of knowable information, the amount that you could like make your educated guess,
right.
that typically they would put that education into it to do that research on it. So it's like a usually good starting point. It's like if I see that they have that, then I can say, okay, especially for Polymarket, you know, if you look at the volume and other things, you can say, okay, 1,000 people put money on this, the market's, you know, a million bucks, as opposed to, you know, like only a few people
Yeah.
putting small bets on it, right? So the more volume you had, then it's just like you know, the stock market, right? Where we have
Our polls. Yeah.
or both. It's, the stock market is the price of a stock. You know, we're anticipating certain mispricing on certain things, but the general known information usually is pretty well priced into
Right.
that price, and you have all this trading again, money on the line on
Right.
it. So that's how I use the prediction markets.
Okay, they call it crowdsourcing or crowd analysis or whatever, and the idea is that as you point out, that the crowd is in this case putting money on it, and so therefore they're more educated, and so you're getting a different kind of result than you might get if they weren't, if they were just all doing it for fun.
Right.
All right, but then what I was wondering about is okay, um, using Polymarket as a tool to make other kinds of decisions.
Mhm.
So if you see certain kinds of poly market subjects going up and getting interest, it tells you there's trends. Or if you
Mhm.
see a poly market going up and it's got enough votes in order to make it worthwhile, you're seeing how the population is thinking about a subject.
Right.
And then it occurred to me you could use Grok or some other kind of LLM to actually analyze what's happening in Polymarket. And
So XAI and Polymarket have made a deal where they're working together,
oh,
right?
yeah, I
So
did.
that was announced like a few months ago, where
Yeah.
they are working on that. And the other one's also used as a data source, but there was a particular um, financial collaboration between XAI and Polymarket where they're using it. And it's also being pushed by All In Podcast, where they do deals and say, okay, we're going to have our own sub-market. So they're doing that kind of getting it more widely distributed to particular areas. Um, so that is happening for Polymarket, and it's potential that it could get more money in play. So it becomes like a small stock, bigger stock market versus small stock market, or a more heavily traded um, contract versus, a more lightly traded, you know, because everyone knows that for certain stocks, the pricing isn't very good because it's too thinly traded,
Right. Right.
right? So you want to get more people involved so that everyone's like putting effort into figure these things out. And for AI, it's AI got to where it is because it was predicting the next word.
Yeah.
I have a sentence, I'm predicting the next word. So now if I'm predicting science, sports, politics, all this kind of stuff, geopolitics, then I'm having ways to test my intelligence. I have to do more research in order to figure out. I'm going to look at the macro, look at all these other announcements that we do in order to figure out what will actually happen because there's all these things that actually impact it. So that means AI has to get smarter to do that. So it's a way to push forward into better AI, more intelligent AI.
Okay, so I was reading. I think there's some issue with regard to Americans being able to trade or not trade or not trade to be participants in Polymarket. But then
Mhm.
apparently today there was some decisions made, and so Americans are going to be able to bet on Polymarket. Do I have that right?
Yeah, because sometimes the viewing of the putting money on these kind of questions is like gambling,
Right.
right? So it's a question of like, do they view it as like stock trading, or do they view it like gambling,
Or something in between.
or something in between, right? And maybe even depend upon what you're making predictions about, right?
Mhm.
Like certain sports prediction thing is pretty much sports gambling,
Yeah.
right? So it's exactly the same thing. So then they have to um, regulate it, decide who can do it, one, if it's illegal at all, if it's illegal outside of Vegas, all that kind of thing. But I think it's something where um, gambling and making what they call prop bets,
Hmm.
because prop bets are basically pretty much the same thing. Prop bets being I make a proposition, a
Right.
question,
Right.
and then putting money against it. That's pretty much this thing.
Yeah, so of course, even in sports betting, it is not the same kind of gambling as, say, 21 or poker or whatever, because you do have well, poker, I guess there is some skill involved. 21, there's a little bit of skill, but the house is always going to win over time. But when you come to sports gambling, there is an education, there is a knowledge tree available to be able to come to some conclusions about what's going to happen on any given Saturday or Sunday. Okay, so Polymarket is going to be available to everybody to use.
Mhm.
Is that your understanding?
I think I hadn't looked into it, but I think that was going to happen. I'm expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm expecting also broader approvals around overall gambling.
Oh, I see.
That I think that the uh, Republican and Trump administration is looking to deregulate.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, okay, you can do it. We may have some stuff where we advise you to be
Right, right.
not foolish and like, same thing for, like putting money on lottery tickets, something like that, have some kind of limitation so people don't go nuts. But they're saying you're an adult, you can do what you want to do kind of thing. So I think that's the general trend on gambling in general, crypto and prediction markets.
All right. So I know I'm skipping around a little bit today. I want to come back to this business of the cars, how many cars we're selling right now. And this turkey thing kind of came out of the blue. Now, if you go back and look, I think they had sold 22 or 24,000 year to date before August.
Mhm.
He sold 8,400 or something in August alone.
Mhm.
22,000 was still a pretty good number for
Mhm.
July.
Right.
And so 8,400, while it's a really good number, was not totally out of the blue. And yet I
Mhm.
think I'm watching it as closely as anybody. I wasn't even looking at Turkey.
Right.
Are there any other surprises in Eastern Europe or like Poland or other places where there might be enough volume to get exciting, or is that a one-off?
I don't think it'd be a one-off. I think that Turkey, the economy has been growing. They have a significant population, I think around 90 million. And their per capita income's not that bad. And I think clearly if they have this once, they could probably do something very similar on a continuing basis. So I would want to investigate um, how their car ownership, car sales numbers overall are going, and uh, why
I
Tesla or the
think it's
EVs are
about
doing well.
Yeah, I think Turkey is about 1.2 million cars per year is their
Mhm.
overall market, and a significant percentage of those are now BEVs.
Mhm.
And Tesla then has a very significant share. I had all the numbers earlier today, but I don't recall them. But it's a significant share. Tesla has a significant share. And also to correct last night's video, there is no, there's a couple of special deals going on in Turkey, but they're not huge and they're not ending. So
Mhm.
this whatever there's a tax deal where they normally charge X amount of excise tax when you buy it or whatever,
Mhm.
or property tax or something. That is reduced on BEVs right now, but we're not
Mhm.
talking like the kind of numbers that we were here in the United States.
Certainly, if they were doing it for political reasons around reducing oil imports or something like that, if they had a government policy motivation for
Yes,
that, then you could see them pushing it where electric vehicles could get to 30% of their sales, and then Tesla could then have half of those, and then gain to 15%, gain to 150,000. Um, so that'd be like 12,000, 13,000 per month.
right.
And then they could then grow because I think the economy is doing pretty well. Then they could double from 1.2 million vehicles to 2.5 million in 5 years or something like that. So then you could see regular sales of around 20,000 or 30,000. It would not be inconceivable in a 5 year time frame for them.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, all right, then let's go. You and I usually start with the stock market and how things work today. And Tesla today, pretty much, well, they started off like with a bang. I'm sorry, they started off way down. There was some huge spike in the amount of trades in the first minutes, and then it all recovered, went up about $12, $11, I think, at one point. Then that caved in with the Nasdaq and the general market going down. Might have been the beige book. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that in a minute. But where do you come out on where we are right now? We were going up nicely last week until Friday. Had a day off. Now it looks like we're recovering. Are we on the road?
We're still technically, I think, in a bullish area that holding the 335 level, moving up, like even though we went up 341 and then 342 and then came back down a bit, we're still in a good zone. Like staying well above 320 is a good thing. And at 335, that gives us the possibility that we could continue to move back and take another run at 350, 360. So if what I'm anticipating is that we get through this week, and then next week, next Tuesday, we would see those first numbers, weekly numbers out of China with YL in it. I'm expecting that to be good. And then anytime in the next 2, 3 weeks, we could see FSD 14 come out.
Right.
So there's um, good news in September for Tesla that would back up any move that we have for trading purposes. And then October 2nd, we could get that 500,000 number.
Right.
And then that would definitely, I think, pop the stock through 360.
Right.
That once that
Right.
happens, if we have good China numbers and FSD 14 come out and it is good, and then October 2nd, that would mean a great September, right? And then October 2nd, with that number coming out, I would see us blowing well past 360 and we'd be into the 400s. That's my general thinking of what would happen, especially if we're looking at people realizing that Q4 and beyond could be adding 100,000 or more vehicles
Right.
from YL. And then if we have FC14 and then a Model Q, it'd be like totally off to the races and the Cybercat. Oh,
All right, and then the overall market, we had three numbers today. We had the beige book, we had the what do you call it? The jolt numbers on employment, and a third one, I think it's construction, no, manufacturing numbers. All three of which pretty much show that the economy is doing okay. Almost nobody's laying off. Basically, they're just letting people out, go out through attrition. But there's not a lot of hiring. The JOLTS number was down a couple of percent, or a couple of thousand, or rather, a couple of hundred. What is it? So it was down from 7.4 million to 7.2 million. So a couple 100,000 in terms of the number of available jobs out there. So, what do you think the economy is going to do? Do you think we'll get let me just tell you what I'm thinking about Friday. It could be 25,000 and that would be fine.
mhm.
It could be 50,000, that could be fine. It could be 75,000. If it's zero, I think the market is going to be sad. It won't be that bad. It would not be horrible to be zero or negative, but the market will look at it as being bad.
You're talking about jobs, right?
Jobs, yeah, jobs on
Jobs.
Friday, yeah. But if it's like a really big number, which I don't think it will be, that would, of course, maybe hurt the market because of worries about the Fed.
Right. Um, I think, yeah, so barring a really, really good number, a really strong number, 150,000 like that, then anything in the range that you're talking about, 50,000 or less, then we're looking at confirmation that the interest rate cuts would start. And then I think another Fed governor today who said, I think it was one of the women who said that she was in favor of a quarter point cut or something like that. So I think barring a surprise, it should be on track to a cut.
And do you think that all this slowness right now that people are talking about, do you think it's another month, or do you think we could be looking at something that's kind of slow for a couple of months before we get back into the golden age?
Um, I think it's tough to read the overall economy because there's so many things in motion
Right.
around, you know, tariffs, manufacturing, business. It's like, when does a bunch of the investments that are supposed to happen start? When does, you know, other actions around the economy start kicking in? Having the interest rate cut would be a good thing, but it's I think um, difficult to tell when things happen. I think by end of this year and next year, I think if we have some cuts and everything's going fine, then I could see more GDP growth, AI data centers, all that kind of stuff, all kind of moving along. But right now we're in a bit of transition, so it's kind of tough to tell. Anything could happen and be like not surprising. Yeah.
Okay, before we get to the numbers, I want to go over with you something I did this morning on the show. So people that were watching this morning have already heard me go through this, but I was thinking, it'd be nice to have a checklist for Tesla that I could look at on a regular basis. And I'm thinking for the average investor out there, not that most of these investors are trading in and out or anything, or trying to make a decision whether to stay in or get out completely or whatever, but there are some people in the audience that probably are trading, are making decisions on options. And so I thought, why not have a checklist on Tesla, and maybe it becomes something that I put into Grok and ask Grok on a regular basis. So number one on the checklist would be what's happening with the foundational. And by the way, I'm interested to know if you want to add to my list, or whether you think I should subtract any of these, or what you think about what each one of these things. So auto and energy, the foundational business, we just spent a lot of time talking about that. It looks like it's up and to the right. Looks like we've got a great third and fourth quarter coming up. First quarter probably is solved. You have any thoughts on that? I mean,
Um, well, I would besides having the overall thing, I would say uh, have it drill into the China, the US, Europe and rest of the world kind of thing. Like have the four regions kind
Break
of
it down.
break it down in order to, and then to look at, what overall um, development could be affecting um, auto or something like that. Like, like is there a new $700 credit coming in? Is there something happening on the policy side or on the economic side
Sure.
for those particular countries? So I would have that extra layer.
Okay. All right. Number two was the future is getting closer to paying off. The FSD 14, the robotaxi, the Optimus, unsupervised driving, all those things are getting closer. So we have this, obviously, the stock. A lot of people say the stock as it stands today, if it wasn't for all this future optionality, would probably only be worth about $135. That's kind of a number. It's kind of an average number I've heard from a lot of people. So the other $200 is all on optionality for robotaxi, et cetera, FSD, et cetera. So I was thinking maybe the second section would be how are we progressing on all of these future options?
Yeah, and I think that's a good second section. And then to drill in the details around particularly FSD robotaxi and Tesla bot and also robotrucking. So those would be the breakdown, again, the second layer of the overall and then specifically around that. And then also probably the XAI Grok 5 or Grok 6 or something like that. That also needs to be in there because any huge success to superintelligence there will be something that translates over to Tesla.
Okay. Number three was the financials of the company. I don't think they're going to change much, but it would always be, I think, an important thing to look at. Right now, of course, we have tons of cash, no debt. That's that's a pretty good place to be. Would you add anything to that one?
If you're doing fine tuning, then you would look to see if there's something knowable about the reg credits or like we have Q3 rolling off the same 500 credit, like what's the major regulatory pieces or interest rates? If we were to know, okay, 200 basis points of interest rates are coming off, that would be something that would affect things. And also if there's stimulus, say from China or something like else.
Yeah, we might also put crypto in or Bitcoin in there. And then I was thinking also free cash flow, which a lot of people think that the only thing that matters is free cash flow. Number four is the macro markets. So the macro of the market itself. So the markets are right now predicting a very positive economy. We've had over 70 all-time highs on the S&P this year. A lot of people predicting 660 by the end of the year. I mean, 6,600 by the end of the year on the S&P. But I think this channel has always been about looking at the macro of the economy, the macro of the markets, in addition to the specifics. So, any thoughts with regard to my category of the macro, equity market, or all the markets actually? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any kind of special indicators on some of the people who specialists who predict on the macro side of things. Like, is it like a Tom Lee indicator? And then this Tom Lee is on the bull side, who on the less bullish side is not always wrong or whatever, like someone who's actually putting in useful information. But having like two or three people on there might be something that could be a useful thing.
Following some people. Yeah. All right. All right. Then the next one would be getting into a specific area of the macro, which would be the interest rates, because the interest rates are so important in terms of both the pricing of Tesla cars, in terms of the discounts or whatever that they might need to give, as well as for the value of the stock, because it changes the discount rate.
Yep. I think those are good. You're totally on top of the macro interest rates. You're Mr. Interest Rates.
Number six would be Elon Musk himself. Right now, he's seemingly back to work, cranking out a new master plan, and he's going to give us a master plan 4.1, because I was the first to say we needed it, but I didn't get credit. But anyway, so we have 4.1 coming out, and also lots of ideas, lots of marketing, lots of maybe new products might be coming. So anyway, some kind of a way to gauge Elon's involvement at any given time.
Right. So then maybe some tracking also of, no ones aren't happening there that quickly, but things like his pay package, the overall getting free of the Delaware court problems, those kind of things, like having that as a kind of tracker, because those are things that have had negative impacts
Yeah.
before. So getting those on the positive side would be a useful indicator.
All right. And then something that I never look at, so I put it in here, number 7, negatives. So right now, some of the negatives would be perception of brand damage, especially in Europe. Many people seeing it no longer being a growth stock. There'd be regulatory issues, again, primarily in Europe, but they're important elsewhere as well. And then the massive PE, I think it's at 196 as of some point today. So any thoughts about the negatives?
I think those are pretty well covered by what you're saying. And also we put that into some of the other areas that we were discussing, interest rates, macro, those
Oh,
kind
you
of
put a
things.
negative under each of them, if there's any negative
Yeah,
category.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Then we got the analysts. You kind of talked about the analysts a minute ago, but those were analysts for the general market. But then the analysts right now are mildly bullish, but as it has been for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, it's overall neutral if you take all the analysts, but it's neutral plus, if you will. The PTs are going up or down right now. Realistically, the lowest PT I think is about 130 and the highest is 500, but it might be interesting to actually, chart the analysts' positions as they change.
If we get to 2019, 2020, and 2021 period where we have a big move in the stock, which for those that don't know, like most of the tested bulls believe that we're building up to that kind of situation. That then the price target, the analysts, when Dan Ives and the others are moving up their price targets all the time, and they're being overrun, right? Okay, I had a price target of 500, but then we blew by, we're at 600. Then whenever they toss a new price target on, then that's giving permission for the institutions and stuff to keep running the stock up, right? So when we get to that situation again, which I'm hoping to start seeing, late in 2025 and then 2026 and through 2026 and 27, then those movements of those analyst price points as we overrun old price points and have to set a new one, because they're kind of like a lag thing. But ones who would be usually more on top of making sure their price targets aren't overrun too much would be a Dan Ives and someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking this is another place. A lot of these things are places where Grok could do the work. And so I could say, here are the 12 analysts I want you to follow.
Yeah.
And every day I want you to give me the current status on these. Okay, then there's my price target. Now maybe I should put our price target or whatever. But so we know my price target is 1,000 by your end, but I've now put my caveat in. We need to have at least 500 cars being offered in the robotaxi network with few or no safety riders and apps open to everybody, at least in Austin or a few cities, preferably.
Right. Yeah. So I would, again, we could get to 1,000, but everything has to go perfectly. It may take till end of Q1 or Q2 to get there. But because I was expecting a Model 2 lower price car.
Right.
Although if YL have the run rate over 500,000 or 600,000, that would satisfy that condition for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So if we have that kind of number, then we're positive on that. If we get to 600,000 or 520 Q3 and then 600,000 in Q4, I think those would be satisfying the volume number conditions for us. And then if we have the FSD and robotaxi, then it's all good.
I wonder if the Europeans will ever become embarrassed by the fact that everybody else in the world is buying these cars like crazy, and they're not. Okay, then the last one would be technical analysis. I rely on you and Nicholas, who says he's not a technical analyst. He says he doesn't like to be called a technical analyst. So you and Nicholas usually give me my technical analysis, but I think maybe again, rounding up 5 or 6 of the ones who pay more attention to Tesla and tracking them.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea.
All right. Okay. Last thing on my list is the XAI coding app has gone crazy.
Yes.
Is this just the beginning of XAI ripping the heart out of all the other um,
Models. And
models?
yes, I think that is what's going to happen. That they have the most compute, so them having that advantage is something that they can continue to use. And then once they can get substantial better performance for the coding, for text, for video, and those kind of things, then they can, use that to beat OpenAI and other things like that. It's like Google competing with Yahoo, right? That if Google's technology is superior and their search engine's better, then they, even though Yahoo's out in the lead at first, they get overtaken and replaced. So that's what XAI needs to show over the next year.
Okay, all right. So the one thing I do notice is kind of interesting. I listen, of course, to All In Podcast and to B2G and to
BG2, yeah.
BG2 and B2G, no,
BG2.
and to 𝐑𝐚𝐬𝐽𝐼 and all these guys. And almost all of them are big fans of Elon Musk. And yet it's like XAI is in the background to all of them. They talk about Google, they talk about about ChatGPT, they talk about almost all of the other ones. And oh yeah, and then there's always XAI.
Right. Well, I think some of them have, like I think 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐽𝐼 has said that he expects XAI to be the leading model. It just hasn't achieved it yet.
Yeah.
So they're looking at it in terms of like OpenAI still has 1 billion users,
right,
versus 10, 20 million, 50 million, whatever for XAI Grok,
right,
other systems, right? So in terms of the usage, you can say, okay, XAI has not pulled ahead, right? The other thing would be that several of them have investments that run counter, like
right. Yes.
Jason Calacanis is deep into Uber.
Yeah.
It kind of made his name. So
Yeah.
he hadn't gotten out of it. He's, will talk up Uber, won't talk up much about Tesla, but he won't trash it because he's also
right.
friends with Elon and that kind of stuff. But they have financial interests, and also like their money is making them think about things a certain way. But on BG2, like Brad Gerstner, he had a lot of Uber, but then he traded out. So he's willing to change his stock position around things and then say more about what might actually happen. And then for XAI and Grok, they're waiting for it to be really better. They can say, okay, right now it seems better in some cases, not better in others. So they have a reasons to still doubt it because they haven't gotten the pure performance superiority there. But they All In Podcast will have on there's one of the owners of XAI who has a $3 billion fund who he will my name is eluding me right now. Yeah. But so they have other guests on who will make the case for that.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of interesting things in these numbers, Brian, that we can finish up with here. First of all, we got Tesla is at 334.69 in the pre-market, sitting at I guess they call it the after hours, 60 cents up in the after hours. So as much as it came down from that great day, it is recovering a little bit of it in the after hours. But I would assuming that ADP's number tomorrow is kind of like the numbers we just talked about for Friday, somewhere in the 50, 75, or even less. I think it's going to be a good day for the market, and I think Tesla will join the party. That's what I'm thinking about tomorrow. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I'm anticipating not much surprises on the numbers, and things should continue to go smoothly.
All right, let's look at couple of the big ones today. One was the bonds. Now they are back up a little bit here in the pre-market. This is called a pre-market. Do you have any idea why they call this the equity, the individual equities, the after hours, and the overall information in the pre-market?
No idea. I
No
think,
idea. Okay.
some
Right.
history thing.
So the 10 years are up 0.8, but they were down strongly in the regular hours. So we're back down to 4.219, or call it 4.22. Just had a big story this morning about the bonds. And this story was suggesting that the big problem for the bonds is you've got corporate bonds, $60 billion worth being sold this week. And these are the high quality corporate bonds. You've got France, Germany, Japan, all dying. Their interest rates are going through the roof. So there's a lot of what do you want to call it? A lot of availability of these kinds of instruments, and maybe not enough buyers to buy all of them.
Yeah. I haven't, it's confusing as to what's happening with the longer bond and other things like that. So I leave that to your expertise as to discern. I don't have an input onto what's happening there.
All right. Oil managed to been sitting right about $64 now for, I don't know, 10 days at least. So not very much different. Natural gas, same thing. It did jump up and down a bunch, but now it's kind of settling down around 290 to 310 for, again, I think almost a week now it's been in that range, and not a lot happening here. Now, the Russia thing could affect any of that at any given time.
Another Venezuela thing.
And a Venezuela thing. So, yeah, the president of Venezuela thought that we were using AI to create that explosion on that boat.
AI for the missile that struck the boat. Yeah. But the thing is, if there actually is regime change there, that would affect the oil markets, because if you get Venezuela back, being a good actor and then having leadership change, then that could get their oil back into play. But it would take a while.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So the gold market, this is another one. Holy mackerel. Well, at least it's finally cooled off. It's down 21 bucks after having another all-time high today. We're still sitting at 36.14. So now I'm guessing that this gold thing is related to the bonds and related to the dollar, and all of this is all mixed up together. We know that China and Japan has been buying gold hand over fist.
Well, there's a possibility that's been floating around that the United States, Trump would reprice gold, right? So that would be the huge thing that, say, okay, gold is, $5,000 an ounce, $10,000 an ounce, which would then have the reserves be able to go against the debt and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that, I'm not, in tune enough to know whether that could happen. But serious analysts.
It's happened before.
Right, it happened before.
Like I think it's been 30 years or something since the last time they repriced it.
Right.
Or marked to market, or whatever you want to call it. And you can actually market to anything you want.
Right. Right.
So I think
that kind of thing being in play, and Trump willing to do things, is something that would totally shake up the market, and maybe the gold people know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and then silver, of course, silver's been, coming back behind gold. Silver's not in play in any of that kind of stuff that we're talking about. But I guess silver somehow has to be some percentage of gold, or people start buying it up like crazy. Anyways, 41.54 all-time high by a lot. And so it continues along that route. Copper is slowly but surely starting to pick up again after the big tariff let down, if you will. 456 today. I keep thinking copper is going to go crazy.
It might,
but not investment advice, but
yeah.
And then finally, Bitcoin. Well, not finally, because we got the equities. Bitcoin finally picking up a little bit, 1248 up today, and 112,000 roughly. Are
Mhm.
you paying? I think you pay attention to this a little bit.
Yeah,
Are you?
yeah. I look at Bitcoin. I also think you should look at Ethereum. I think it's doing all-time
You
highs.
are. I'm quoting Ethereum every night.
I need to hop off here,
Oh,
so
you
I have
do.
to. Yeah, so you can continue, and then we can finish up. So I have to leave right now.
Okay, all
Sorry.
right, fine. Okay. So, well, I wonder what happened. I hope he'll let us know. Anyway, okay, we've got again, Bitcoin up 1229 at 112,000. Ethereum is up 4.4%. Now, see, it had been down the last couple of days, and up going the opposite way from a little bit of a gain from Bitcoin. Now today it's making it up 4.4%, up 188 to 4462. And then the equities, we've got the Dow continuing to be the negative one, down a little bit in the pre-market at down 0.13. S&P is up 0.02 and NASDAQ up 0.01. I guess you could call those two unch. So there you go. That's where we're sitting going into tomorrow. Love to hear what you think about my list of 10 things. I think this would be a valuable tool. Again, I'll probably figure out some way to put it into Grok and let Grok give us updates on a regular basis on those 10 things. And maybe it will be a tool that we can all use to be a little smarter about our investing and make us more money. That would be great, right? That's all I got for you. Right? Oh, and let's see. Later on tonight, it'll be Brian White. It's a great one. Earlier today, I did a video. On what did I do that video on? It was it was important to me at the time, and it was yeah, but I can't remember what it was now. Darn it! Oh well, age, I guess. It's been great talking to you.